the sacred space within, discovering your true self through the power of solitude. In a world that never stops talking, the most revolutionary act you can perform is to listen to the silence within yourself. Right now, as you hear these words, millions of people are desperately trying to fill every quiet moment with noise, distraction, and the endless chatter of digital connection. Yet somewhere deep inside you, there exists a space that can only be accessed when you are completely, utterly alone, a sacred space that holds the key to your truest self, your deepest wisdom, and your most profound peace. Chapter 1. The Lost Art of Being Alone. We have forgotten how to be alone. In our hyper-connected age, solitude has become something we fear rather than cherish, something we avoid rather than seek. The moment we find ourselves without external stimulation, we reach for our phones, turn on the television, or seek out the company of others, anything to escape the apparent emptiness of our own presence. But what if I told you that this emptiness is actually fullness? What if the silence you're running from contains more wisdom than all the podcasts, articles, and conversations you consume in a week? What if the time you spend alone is not time wasted, but time invested in the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself? The truth is, spending time alone is not just beneficial, it's essential for your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's in solitude that we discover who we truly are beneath the masks we wear for others. It's in the quiet moments that our most creative ideas emerge. It's in the stillness that we find the clarity to make important decisions and the strength to face life's challenges. Throughout history, the greatest thinkers, artists, and spiritual leaders have understood this fundamental truth. From the Buddha's meditation under the Bodhi tree to Thoreau's retreat to Walden Pond, from Einstein's solitary walks to Virginia Woolf's room of her own, the pattern is clear. Profound insights arise from profound solitude. Yet somehow, we've lost sight of this ancient wisdom. We've been conditioned to believe that being alone means being lonely, that solitude equals isolation, and that our worth is measured by our social connections rather than our inner connection. This conditioning has led us into a state of chronic external dependency, where we've forgotten how to find fulfillment, peace, and joy within ourselves. The cost of this forgetting is enormous. Without regular periods of solitude, we become strangers to ourselves. We lose touch with our authentic desires, our genuine feelings, and our inner guidance system. We become reactive rather than responsive, scattered rather than focused, anxious rather than peaceful. We live our lives according to others' expectations rather than our own values, and we wonder why we feel so empty despite being constantly surrounded by people and stimulation. But there is hope. The ability to be alone, truly alone with yourself, is a skill that can be relearned. It's a practice that, once cultivated, will transform not only how you relate to yourself, but how you relate to the world around you. When you become comfortable with your own company, you bring a different quality of presence to all your relationships. When you learn to find peace in solitude, you carry that peace with you wherever you go. This journey back to yourself begins with a simple recognition that you are not just worthy of your own attention, you are in desperate need of it. In a world that constantly demands your focus, choosing to focus on yourself is not selfish, it's revolutionary. It's an act of self-respect, self-love, and ultimately service to the world, because the person who knows themselves deeply is the person who can offer their authentic gifts to others. Chapter 2. The Sanctuary of Silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. When we speak of spending time alone, we're not just talking about physical solitude, we're talking about creating a sanctuary of silence within your daily life. A space where the constant chatter of the external world fades away, and you can finally hear the whisper of your own soul. In this sanctuary, miracles happen. Problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly reveal their solutions. Emotions that felt overwhelming begin to settle into clarity. The racing mind that never seemed to rest finally finds its natural rhythm. This is not magic. It's the natural result of giving your consciousness the space it needs to function at its highest level. Think of your mind like a snow globe, that's been shaken vigorously. When you're constantly engaged with external stimulation, social media, conversations, entertainment, work demands the snow keeps swirling and you can't see clearly through the glass. But when you create periods of silence and stillness, the snow begins to settle and suddenly you can see through to the other side with perfect clarity. This clarity is not just intellectual, it's intuitive. In the silence, you begin to access what psychologists call your unconscious processing power, the vast intelligence that operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. This is the intelligence that solves problems while you sleep, that gives you sudden insights in the shower, that guides you toward the right decisions even when you can't logically explain why. The sanctuary of silence doesn't require you to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop or retreat to a monastery. It can be found in the early morning hours before the world wakes up, in a quiet corner of your home, in a walk through nature without your phone, or even in the simple act of sitting with a cup of tea without any agenda, other than to be present with yourself. What matters is not where you find this silence, but that you actively seek it out and protect it. In our noise-polluted world, silence has become a luxury that many people feel they can't afford. But the truth is, you can't afford not to have it. Without regular doses of silence, your nervous system remains in a state of chronic activation, your creativity becomes stunted, and your ability to connect with your deeper wisdom atrophies. The benefits of spending time in silence are both immediate and cumulative. Immediately, you'll notice a sense of relief, as if you've been holding your breath and can finally exhale. Your shoulders will drop, your breathing will deepen, and a sense of spaciousness will begin to emerge in both your body and mind. Over time, regular periods of silence will rewire your brain, strengthening the neural pathways associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. But perhaps the most profound benefit of silence is that it reconnects you with your authentic self. In the constant noise of modern life, it's easy to lose touch with your own thoughts, feelings, and desires. You become so accustomed to reacting to external stimuli that you forget what it feels like to simply be. Silence reminds you that beneath all the doing, there is a being, a consciousness that is fundamentally peaceful, creative, and wise. This being is not something you need to create or achieve. It's something you need to uncover. It's been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the layers of conditioning, expectations, and habitual patterns of thought. Silence is the gentle solvent that dissolves these layers, revealing the luminous awareness that is your true nature. Chapter 3: The Morning Ritual Revolution. How you begin your day determines the quality of everything that follows. This is not metaphysical speculation, it's neuroscientific fact. The first hour after you wake up is when your brain is most plastic, most receptive to new patterns, and most capable of setting the neurochemical tone for the entire day ahead. Most people waste this golden hour. They reach for their phones before their feet hit the floor, flooding their consciousness with other people's thoughts, opinions, and agendas before they've even had a chance to connect with their own. They rush through their morning routine in a state of mild panic, already behind before the day has truly begun. By the time they arrive at work or begin their daily responsibilities, they're running on stress hormones rather than authentic energy. But what if you could revolutionize your entire life simply by changing how you spend the first hour of your day? What if you could create a morning ritual that not only sets you up for success, but actually transforms your relationship with yourself and your capacity for inner peace? A morning ritual is not just a routine, it's a sacred practice. It's a daily recommitment to your own well-being, a conscious choice to prioritize your inner state over external demands. When you create a morning ritual centered around solitude, silence, and self-connection, you're essentially giving yourself the gift of a fresh start every single day. The power of a morning ritual lies not in its complexity but in its consistency. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. or spend 3 hours in elaborate practices. What you need is intention, dedication, and the wisdom to protect this time from the encroachment of others' expectations. An effective morning ritual might include several elements, each designed to nurture a different aspect of your well-being. It might begin with a few minutes of deep breathing, allowing your nervous system to fully transition from sleep to wakefulness. This could be followed by some gentle move stretching, yoga, or even just walking around your home to awaken your physical body and create a sense of embodied presence. Journaling is another powerful component of a morning ritual. When you write first thing in the morning, before your analytical mind has fully engaged, you tap into a stream of consciousness that often contains surprising insights and creative solutions. This practice, sometimes called morning pages, helps clear the mental clutter that accumulates overnight and creates space for fresh thinking throughout the day. Reading something inspiring, whether it's poetry, philosophy, or spiritual text, can also be part of your morning ritual. Unlike the reactive consumption of news or social media, choosing to fill your mind with uplifting content sets a positive tone for your thoughts and emotions throughout the day. But perhaps the most important element of any morning ritual is simply sitting in silence with yourself. This doesn't have to be formal meditation, though it can be. It might just be sitting with your coffee or tea, looking out the window, and allowing yourself to be present with whatever arises in your awareness without feeling the need to fix, change, or analyze it. The key is to approach your morning ritual not as another item on your to-do list, but as a form of self-care that's as essential as brushing your teeth. This is time that you're investing in your most important relationship, the one with yourself. It's time that will pay dividends throughout the day in the form of greater clarity, emotional stability, creative insights, and a deeper sense of purpose. When you consistently honor your morning ritual, you begin to notice profound changes in your life. You become less reactive and more responsive. You find yourself making decisions from a place of clarity rather than confusion. You discover reserves of patience and compassion that you didn't know you possessed. Most importantly, you develop an unshakable sense of inner stability that no external circumstance can disturb. Chapter 4: The Science of Solitude. The benefits of spending time alone are not just philosophical concepts or spiritual platitudes. They're scientifically measurable phenomena that researchers around the world have been documenting for decades. Understanding the science behind solitude can help you appreciate why this practice is not a luxury, but a necessity for optimal human functioning. Neuroscientists have discovered that when we're constantly engaged with external stimuli, our brains remain in what's called the task-positive network, a state of outward-focused attention that's necessary for getting things done, but exhausting when maintained for extended periods. Solitude allows our brains to shift into the default mode network, a state of restful awareness that's associated with creativity, self-reflection, and psychological well-being. During periods of solitude, particularly when we're not actively trying to solve problems or accomplish tasks, our brains begin to make novel connections between disparate pieces of information. This is why breakthrough insights often come when we're walking alone, taking a shower, or sitting quietly with no particular agenda. The relaxed, unfocused state of consciousness that solitude promotes is actually optimal for creative problem-solving and innovative thinking. Research has also shown that regular periods of solitude lead to measurable changes in brain structure. Areas associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness literally grow denser with consistent practice. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes less reactive to stress, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation, becomes more active and well-developed. From a psychological perspective, solitude serves several crucial functions. It provides what researchers call emotional regulation, the ability to process and integrate emotional experiences without being overwhelmed by them. When we're constantly in the company of others, we often suppress or avoid difficult emotions rather than dealing with them directly. Solitude creates a safe space where these emotions can be felt, understood, and ultimately released. Solitude also promotes what psychologists term identity development. When we're always responding to others' expectations and social cues, we can lose touch with our authentic preferences, values, and desires. Time alone allows us to reconnect with our true selves, separate from the roles we play in relationships and social situations. Perhaps most importantly, solitude enhances what researchers call emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between subtle variations in emotional states. People who spend regular time alone develop a more sophisticated emotional vocabulary and are better able to identify and communicate their feelings. This enhanced emotional intelligence benefits not only their relationship with themselves, but all their relationships with others. The physiological benefits of solitude are equally impressive. Regular periods of quiet, alone time activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response that allows the body to repair, regenerate, and restore itself. This leads to lower cortisol levels, reduced inflammation, improved immune function, and better sleep quality. Studies have also shown that people who are comfortable with solitude have lower rates of anxiety and depression, higher levels of life satisfaction, and greater resilience in the face of adversity. They're less likely to experience the fear of missing out, FOMO, that plagues so many people in our hyper-connected age, and more likely to experience what researchers call JOMOth, joy of missing out. Interestingly, research has revealed a crucial distinction between chosen solitude and enforced isolation. While isolation can indeed be harmful to psychological and physical health, chosen solitude time alone that's actively sought and enjoyed has the opposite effect. The key factor is volition. When we choose to be alone, our brains and bodies respond very differently than when solitude is imposed upon us. This distinction is crucial because it highlights the importance of reframing our relationship with being alone. Instead of viewing solitude as something to be endured or avoided, we can learn to see it as a valuable resource to be cultivated and cherished. When we make this shift in perception, the benefits of solitude multiply exponentially. Chapter 5. Meditation as your inner compass. If solitude is the sanctuary and silence is the doorway, then meditation is your inner compass, the practice that helps you navigate the vast landscape of your own consciousness with skill, wisdom, and grace. Meditation is not about emptying your mind or achieving some mystical state of enlightenment. It's about developing a different relationship with your thoughts, emotions, and sensations, one characterized by awareness rather than reactivity, acceptance rather than resistance, and presence rather than distraction. At its core, meditation is the practice of paying attention. In our scattered, multitasking world, the simple act of focusing your attention on one thing for an extended period is both radical and revolutionary. It's radical because it goes against everything our culture teaches us about productivity and efficiency. It's revolutionary because it has the power to transform not just how you think, but who you are. When you sit in meditation, you're not trying to solve problems or achieve goals in the conventional sense. Instead, you're cultivating what Buddhists call bare attention, the ability to observe your experience without immediately judging, analyzing, or trying to change it. This might sound simple, but it's actually one of the most challenging and rewarding skills you can develop. In the beginning, meditation can feel frustrating. Your mind will wander constantly. Thoughts will arise and multiply like weeds, and you may wonder if you're doing it right. This is completely normal and, paradoxically, exactly what should be happening. Each time you notice that your mind has wandered, and gently bring your attention back to your chosen focus, whether it's your breath, a mantra, or a visualization, you're strengthening your mental muscles. You're literally rewiring your brain for greater focus, emotional stability, and self-awareness. The benefits of regular meditation practice extend far beyond the time you spend sitting in formal practice. Meditation develops what neuroscientists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions from a slight distance, as if you were watching clouds pass across the sky of your consciousness. This capacity for witnessing your own mental processes without being completely caught up in them is perhaps the most valuable skill you can develop for navigating the challenges of modern life. When you have strong metacognitive awareness, you're less likely to be hijacked by strong emotions or reactive thoughts. Instead of immediately believing every story your mind tells you or acting on every impulse that arises, you create a small but crucial space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your freedom. The freedom to choose how you want to respond rather than simply reacting from old patterns and conditioning. Meditation also serves as a powerful antidote to what psychologists call rumination, the tendency to replay negative thoughts or experiences over and over in your mind. When you meditate regularly, you develop the ability to notice when your mind is caught in these repetitive loops and gently redirect your attention to the present moment. This doesn't mean suppressing or avoiding difficult thoughts and emotions. It means learning to relate to them with greater wisdom and less suffering. There are many different forms of meditation, and finding the right approach for you may take some experimentation. Mindfulness meditation involves paying attention to whatever is happening in your present moment experience, thoughts, emotions, sensations, sounds, without trying to change anything. Concentration meditation involves focusing your attention on a single object, such as your breath or a mantra, and repeatedly returning to that focus whenever your mind wanders. Loving-kindness meditation involves cultivating feelings of compassion and goodwill toward yourself and others. Walking meditation involves bringing mindful awareness to the simple act of walking. Body scan meditation involves systematically paying attention to different parts of your body, cultivating a sense of embodied awareness. The key is not to find the perfect meditation technique, but to find one that resonates with you and practice it consistently. Even 5 or 10 minutes of daily meditation can have profound effects on your mental and emotional well-being. The goal is not to become a perfect meditator, but to become more aware, more present, and more skillful in how you relate to your own experience. As your meditation practice deepens, you'll begin to notice subtle but significant changes in how you move through your daily life. You'll find yourself less reactive to stress, more resilient in the face of challenges, and more able to access your natural wisdom and creativity. You'll discover that the peace and clarity you cultivate in meditation doesn't stay on the cushion, it begins to permeate every aspect of your life. Most importantly, meditation helps you realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, and you are not your circumstances. You are the aware presence that witnesses all of these phenomena. This recognition is not just intellectually liberating, it's experientially transformative. When you truly understand that your essential nature is awareness itself, you gain access to an unshakable source of peace and stability that no external situation can disturb. Chapter 6. Cultivating Inner Calm. Inner calm is not a luxury reserved for monks and mystics. It's your birthright as a human being. Yet in our fast-paced, high-pressure world, many people have forgotten what true calm feels like. They've become so accustomed to operating in a state of chronic stress and overstimulation that they mistake this agitated state for normal functioning. True inner calm is not the absence of thoughts or emotions. It's the presence of an unshakable peace that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. It's the eye of the hurricane place of stillness at the center of your being that remains untouched by the storms of daily life. This calm is not something you need to create or achieve. It's something you need to uncover by removing the layers of tension, anxiety, and mental noise that obscure it. Cultivating inner calm begins with understanding the difference between peace and pleasure, between contentment and excitement. Our culture often confuses these states, leading us to seek calm through external means: entertainment, shopping, food, or substances. But these approaches only provide temporary relief and often leave us more agitated than before. True calm comes from within, and it can only be accessed through practices that help you connect with your deeper nature. One of the most effective ways to cultivate inner calm is through breath awareness. Your breath is always available to you, always happening in the present moment, and intimately connected to your nervous system. When you're stressed or anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you're calm and relaxed, your breathing becomes deep and slow. By consciously working with your breath, you can directly influence your state of mind and nervous system activation. The practice is simple but profound. Several times throughout your day, pause and take 3 conscious breaths. Breathe in slowly through your nose, allowing your belly to expand, and breathe out slowly through your mouth, allowing your body to relax. With each exhale, imagine releasing any tension, worry, or mental chatter you're carrying. With each inhale, imagine drawing in peace, clarity, and renewed energy. Another powerful practice for cultivating inner calm is what meditation teachers call noting. Throughout your day, practice observing your mental and emotional states without trying to change them. When you notice anxiety arising, simply note anxiety and continue with what you're doing. When you notice excitement, note excitement. When you notice boredom, note boredom. This practice helps you develop the observer consciousness that is naturally calm and unshakable. Progressive muscle relaxation is another effective technique for cultivating physical and mental calm. Starting with your toes and working your way up to the top of your head, consciously tense and then release each muscle group in your body. This practice helps you become aware of where you hold physical tension and teaches your body how to release it on command. Creating rituals of calm throughout your day can also be incredibly helpful. This might be as simple as taking a moment to appreciate the taste of your morning coffee, pausing to watch the sunset, or spending a few minutes in gratitude before going to sleep. These small rituals serve as anchors that remind you to return to a state of inner peace throughout your day. It's important to understand that cultivating inner calm is not about avoiding or suppressing difficult emotions. True calm is spacious enough to hold all of your experiences, joy and sorrow, excitement and fear, love and anger, without being disturbed by any of them. When you have access to genuine inner calm, you can remain centered and present even in the midst of challenging circumstances. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent to what's happening around you. Inner calm actually enhances your ability to respond skillfully to life's challenges because you're not clouded by reactive emotions or mental chatter. You can see situations more clearly, make decisions from a place of wisdom rather than fear, and take appropriate action without being overwhelmed by stress or anxiety. The cultivation of inner calm is a gradual process that requires patience and persistence. Don't expect to transform overnight from a stressed, anxious person to a beacon of serenity. Instead, think of it as developing a new skill or strengthening a muscle. Each time you pause to breathe consciously, each time you choose to respond rather than react, each time you return to the present moment when your mind has wandered into worry or regret, you're building your capacity for inner calm. Over time, you'll notice that this calm becomes more stable and accessible. What used to trigger intense reactions will begin to feel manageable. Situations that once overwhelmed you will no longer knock you off balance. You'll discover that you have access to a deep well of peace that can sustain you through any challenge or difficulty. Chapter 7: The Art of Focused Attention. In an age of infinite distractions and constant connectivity, the ability to focus your attention has become both more valuable and more challenging than ever before. Your attention is your most precious resource, more valuable than your time, your money, or your possessions. Where you direct your attention shapes your experience of reality, influences your emotional state, and ultimately determines the quality of your life. Yet, most people have lost control of their attention. They've become passive consumers of whatever content, thoughts, or stimuli happen to capture their awareness in any given moment. They switch between tasks compulsively, check their phones hundreds of times per day, and rarely experience the deep satisfaction that comes from sustained, focused engagement with a single activity. The cost of this scattered attention is enormous. When your attention is constantly fragmented, you never fully engage with anything. You never experience the joy of flow states, the satisfaction of deep work, or the peace that comes from being completely present in the moment. Instead, you live in a perpetual state of partial attention, always slightly distracted, never fully here. But attention is trainable. Like a muscle that grows stronger with exercise, your capacity for focused attention can be developed through practice. The key is understanding that attention is not just a cognitive function, it's a whole, being capacity that involves your thoughts, emotions, body, and spirit. The foundation of focused attention is single-pointing, the ability to direct your awareness to one object and keep it there. This might be your breath in meditation, a piece of music you're listening to, a book you're reading, or a conversation you're having. The specific object is less important than your commitment to staying present with whatever you've chosen to focus on. When you first begin practicing focused attention, you'll likely be amazed at how quickly your mind wanders. You might set an intention to focus on your breath for just 5 minutes, only to discover that your mind has jumped to your grocery list, tomorrow's meeting, or last night's conversation within 30 seconds. This is completely normal and nothing to be discouraged about. The wandering mind is not a failure. It's simply the current condition that you're working to transform. Each time you notice that your attention has wandered and gently bring it back to your chosen focus, you're performing what neuroscientists call attention training. You're literally rewiring your brain, strengthening the neural pathways associated with sustained attention while weakening the pathways associated with distraction and mind wandering. One powerful practice for developing focused attention is what's called candle gazing, or trataka, in the yogic tradition. Light a candle and place it at eye level about 3 feet away from you. Sit comfortably and simply gaze at the flame, allowing your attention to rest completely on this single point of light. When your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to the flame. Start with just a few minutes and gradually increase the duration as your capacity grows. Another effective practice is mindful reading. Choose a book, preferably something contemplative or philosophical rather than purely entertaining, and commit to reading with complete attention. When you notice your mind wandering, or when you realize you've been reading words without comprehending their meaning, pause, take a breath, and begin again. This practice not only improves your concentration, but also deepens your comprehension and enjoyment of what you're reading. Mindful listening is another powerful way to develop focused attention. Put on a piece of music. Instrumental works often work best for this practice, and listen with your entire being. Notice not just the melody, but the texture of the sounds, the spaces between notes, the way different instruments interact with each other. When your mind starts to plan or worry or analyze, gently return your attention to the pure experience of sound. The key to all these practices is gentleness. Don't berate yourself when your attention wanders. Simply notice that it has wandered and kindly escort it back to your chosen focus. Think of yourself as a patient parent guiding a young child who keeps getting distracted. The goal is not to force your attention into submission, but to train it with kindness and consistency. As your capacity for focused attention grows, you'll begin to notice profound changes in your daily life. Tasks that once felt overwhelming will become manageable. Activities that you once found boring or tedious will reveal hidden depths and unexpected pleasures. Conversations will become richer and more meaningful because you'll be fully present with the people you're talking to. Perhaps most importantly, you'll discover the deep satisfaction that comes from what psychologists call flow states, those magical moments when you're so completely absorbed in an activity that self-consciousness disappears and you become one with what you're doing. These states are not random occurrences, they're the natural result of focused attention combined with engaged activity. Chapter 8. Solitude as Creative Catalyst. Creativity is not a talent reserved for artists and inventors. It's a fundamental aspect of human consciousness that flourishes in the spaciousness of solitude. When you spend time alone, free from the need to perform, please, or conform to others' expectations, you create the optimal conditions for creative insights to emerge from the depths of your unconscious mind. The relationship between solitude and creativity has been recognized throughout history. The greatest innovations, artistic masterpieces, and breakthrough discoveries have often emerged from periods of sustained solitude. Einstein developed his theory of relativity during long solitary walks. Virginia Woolf wrote her greatest novels in the solitude of her writing room. Darwin conceived his theory of evolution during solitary contemplation in his study. This is not coincidence. It's the natural result of how creativity actually works. Creative insights don't emerge from forced effort or logical analysis. They arise from what neuroscientists call the default mode network, a state of unfocused awareness that becomes active when we're not actively engaged in problem-solving or goal-directed activity. This is why breakthrough ideas often come in the shower, during walks, or in the moments just before sleep. Solitude provides the perfect conditions for accessing this creative state of consciousness. When you're alone, you're not processing social cues, managing relationships, or adapting your behavior to fit social expectations. This frees up enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy that can be redirected toward creative exploration and expression. In solitude, you also have permission to be completely authentic. You can explore ideas that might seem strange or unconventional to others. You can play with possibilities without fear of judgment. You can follow your curiosity wherever it leads without having to explain or justify your interests to anyone else. This freedom is essential for genuine creativity, which requires the courage to venture into unknown territory. The practice of spending time alone for creative purposes doesn't require any special skills or talents. It simply requires the willingness to sit with uncertainty and allow your mind to wander freely. One powerful practice is what Julia Cameron calls artist dates, regular periods of time that you spend alone, doing something that feeds your creative spirit. This might be visiting a museum, taking photographs, listening to music, or simply sitting in a park and observing the world around you. Another creative practice that thrives in solitude is free writing or stream of consciousness journaling. Set aside 20 to 30 minutes, sit with a blank page or empty document, and simply write whatever comes to mind without censoring, editing, or analyzing. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, or making sense. The goal is to bypass your rational mind and tap into the creative flow that exists below the surface of conscious thought. Daydreaming, often dismissed as unproductive in our achievement-oriented culture, is actually a crucial creative practice. When you allow your mind to wander freely without trying to direct or control it, you're giving your unconscious the opportunity to make novel connections between disparate pieces of information. The key is to daydream without guilt, understanding that this apparent idle time is actually some of the most productive time you can invest in your creative development. Solitude also provides the space needed for what creativity researchers call incubation, the mysterious process by which solutions to problems emerge after you've stopped actively trying to solve them. When you're constantly engaged with external stimuli, your mind never has the opportunity to process and integrate information at deeper levels. Solitude creates the quiet space where incubation can occur naturally. The creative benefits of solitude extend beyond artistic endeavors to all areas of life. Creative thinking is simply the ability to see new possibilities, make unexpected connections, and generate novel solutions to problems. Whether you're trying to resolve a conflict in a relationship, find a new approach to a work challenge, or simply make your daily life more interesting and meaningful, the insights that emerge from solitude can be invaluable. It's important to approach creative solitude without specific expectations or goals. The moment you try to force creativity or demand that it produce particular results, you interfere with the natural process. Instead, think of creative solitude as creating a welcoming space where inspiration can visit if it chooses to. Your job is not to manufacture creativity, but to provide the conditions where it can flourish naturally. Over time, regular periods of creative solitude will transform not just your creative output, but your entire relationship with your own imagination. You'll begin to trust your intuitive insights more deeply. You'll become more comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. You'll develop the patience to allow ideas to develop and mature, rather than rushing to implement the first solution that comes to mind. Chapter 9. The Courage to be Alone. Learning to be alone requires courage. Perhaps more courage than we initially realize. In a society that equates being alone with being lonely, that measures worth by social connections, and that views solitude with suspicion, choosing to spend time alone can feel like swimming against a powerful current. This courage is necessary because being alone forces us to confront ourselves without distraction. When there are no other people to focus on, no external entertainment to consume, and no tasks to complete, we come face to face with our own thoughts, emotions, and inner landscape. For many people, this encounter with themselves can be initially uncomfortable or even frightening. We may discover thoughts we didn't know we were thinking, feelings we've been avoiding, or aspects of ourselves we've been trying to hide. We might encounter loneliness, boredom, anxiety, or sadness emotions that we've been keeping at bay through constant activity and social engagement. This is why so many people fill every quiet moment with stimulation. They're unconsciously avoiding the vulnerability that comes with authentic self-encounter. But this vulnerability is not a weakness to be overcome, it's a doorway to be walked through. On the other side of this initial discomfort lies a profound gift, the discovery of your own company. When you learn to be comfortable with yourself, with all your thoughts, feelings, quirks, and contradictions, you develop an unshakable foundation of self-acceptance that no external validation can provide. The courage to be alone also requires challenging social conditioning and expectations. You may need to say no to social invitations in order to protect your solitude time. You may need to explain to friends and family why you're choosing to spend time alone rather than with them. You may need to resist the cultural pressure to always be productive, always be available, and always be connected. This doesn't mean becoming antisocial or hermit-like. Rather, it means developing the discernment to know when solitude serves you and having the courage to choose it even when others don't understand. It means recognizing that your relationship with yourself is just as important as your relationships with others, perhaps more so, since the quality of all your external relationships depends on the quality of your internal relationship. The courage to be alone also involves facing what psychologists call existential anxiety, the fundamental questions about meaning, purpose, and mortality that arise when we're not distracted by the busyness of daily life. In solitude, we may find ourselves wondering about the deeper significance of our existence, questioning our choices and values, or confronting our mortality. These existential encounters, while sometimes unsettling, are also opportunities for profound growth and self-understanding. Building the courage to be alone is a gradual process. Start small, with just 10 or 15 minutes of undistracted solitude each day. Gradually increase this time as you become more comfortable with your own presence. Notice what resistances arise: the urge to check your phone, the feeling that you should be doing something productive, the anxiety about being unproductive, and meet these resistances with gentle curiosity rather than judgment. Remember that developing the courage to be alone is not about becoming comfortable with isolation, it's about becoming comfortable with yourself. When you no longer need constant external validation or stimulation to feel okay, you bring a different quality of presence to all your relationships. You become more genuinely available to others because you're no longer using them to escape from yourself. The courage to be alone also involves learning to distinguish between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a feeling of disconnection and emptiness that can occur whether you're alone or surrounded by people. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of peaceful self-connection that nourishes your soul and restores your energy. The more comfortable you become with solitude, the less likely you are to experience loneliness, even during times when you're physically alone. Chapter 10. Designing your solitude practice. Creating a sustainable solitude practice is both an art and a science. It requires understanding your own rhythms, preferences, and life circumstances, while also committing to consistency even when it's inconvenient or challenging. The goal is not to create a perfect practice, but to create a practical one, something that fits naturally into your life and serves your deepest needs. The first step in designing your solitude practice is honest self-assessment. When do you feel most naturally drawn to quiet time? Are you a morning person who thrives in the early hours before the world wakes up? Or do you find peace in the evening when the day's activities wind down? Do you prefer longer periods of solitude, less frequently, or shorter daily practices? There's no right answer. There's only what works for you. Consider your living situation and daily responsibilities. If you have a busy household with children, your solitude practice might need to be more flexible and creative than someone who lives alone. You might find solitude in a morning walk before the family wakes up, in your car during lunch break, or in the bathroom, the only room in the house with a lock. The key is to work with your circumstances rather than waiting for perfect conditions that may never come. Your solitude practice should include both formal and informal elements. Formal practice might be a designated time each day when you sit in meditation, journal, or simply be present with yourself without any agenda. Informal practice involves bringing the quality of solitude presence, awareness, inner stillness into your daily activities. You can experience solitude while washing dishes, walking to work, or sitting in traffic if you approach these activities with mindful awareness. The space where you practice solitude matters more than you might think. While you don't need an elaborate meditation room or retreat cabin, you do need a space that feels safe, quiet, and separate from the demands of daily life. This might be a corner of your bedroom, a comfortable chair by a window, or even a bench in a nearby park. The important thing is that this space becomes associated in your mind with inner peace and self-connection. Consistency is more important than duration. It's better to spend 10 minutes in solitude every day than to spend 2 hours once a week. Daily practice, even when brief, creates a rhythm that your nervous system begins to expect and prepare for. Over time, you'll find that your body and mind naturally begin to settle into a peaceful state as soon as you enter your solitude time. However, don't let the pursuit of consistency become another source of stress. If you miss a day or even a week, simply return to your practice without self-judgment. The goal is not perfection, but cultivation. You're growing something valuable that will benefit you throughout your life. Your solitude practice will naturally evolve over time. What serves you in one season of life may not serve you in another. Stay curious and experimental. Try different approaches: walking meditation 1 month, sitting, practice the next, or creative solitude focused on art or writing. The key is to remain connected to why you're practicing, to know yourself more deeply, to find peace in a chaotic world, and to cultivate the inner resources that will serve you in all aspects of your life. Track your practice not with rigid metrics, but with gentle awareness. Notice how you feel on days when you've honored your solitude time versus days when you haven't. Pay attention to how your relationships, work, performance, and general sense of well-being are affected by your consistency with solitude. This awareness will motivate you far more effectively than external pressure or shoulds. Consider creating rituals that mark the beginning and end of your solitude time. This might be lighting a candle, taking 3 deep breaths, or simply setting an intention to be fully present with yourself. Rituals help create a clear boundary between your solitude practice and the rest of your day, signaling to your nervous system that it's time to shift into a different mode of being. Remember that your solitude practice is ultimately a practice of self-love. You're not doing this because you're broken and need fixing, or because you're selfish and need to be alone. You're doing this because you recognize that your relationship with yourself is the foundation for everything else in your life. When that foundation is strong, everything else becomes more stable, joyful, and meaningful. Chapter 11. Transforming loneliness into solitude. One of the greatest obstacles to embracing solitude is the fear of loneliness. Many people avoid being alone because they associate it with feelings of isolation, sadness, and disconnection. But loneliness and solitude are not the same thing, and learning to distinguish between them is crucial for developing a healthy relationship with being alone. Loneliness is a subjective emotional state, characterized by feelings of emptiness, disconnection, and longing for companionship. Paradoxically, you can feel lonely even when surrounded by people if you don't feel truly seen, understood, or connected. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of peaceful aloneness where you feel complete and content in your own company. The transformation from loneliness to solitude is not just a matter of changing your perspective, it's about fundamentally altering your relationship with yourself. When you're lonely, you're essentially rejecting your own company, finding it insufficient, boring, or uncomfortable. When you embrace solitude, you're celebrating your own presence and recognizing that you are, in fact, excellent company for yourself. This transformation begins with curiosity rather than avoidance. The next time you feel lonely, instead of immediately reaching for external stimulation or companionship, pause and explore the feeling. What exactly does loneliness feel like in your body? What thoughts accompany this emotion? What is the deeper need or longing that loneliness is pointing toward? Often, loneliness is not really about wanting to be with other people. It's about wanting to feel connected to yourself, to life, to something meaningful. When you investigate loneliness with gentle curiosity, you may discover that what you're really longing for is a sense of belonging, purpose, or self-acceptance that no external relationship can provide. One powerful practice for transforming loneliness is to consciously cultivate a loving relationship with yourself. This might sound new age or silly, but it's based on solid psychological research. People who have warm, accepting relationships with themselves are less likely to experience chronic loneliness and more likely to form healthy relationships with others. Start by paying attention to your internal dialogue. How do you speak to yourself throughout the day? Are you kind, encouraging, and supportive? Or are you critical, harsh, and demanding? Most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. Begin treating yourself with the same kindness and compassion you would offer a beloved friend. Practice self-companionship by engaging in activities that you genuinely enjoy, even when you're alone. Take yourself on dates to museums, movies, restaurants, or nature spots. Buy yourself flowers. Prepare yourself a beautiful meal. Celebrate your accomplishments. Comfort yourself during difficult times, and generally treat yourself as a cherished companion rather than someone you're stuck with. Another effective practice is what therapists call reparenting, consciously providing yourself with the emotional support, encouragement, and unconditional love that you may not have received consistently in childhood. This doesn't mean dwelling on past hurts or blaming your parents. It means taking responsibility for giving yourself what you need now, regardless of what you received or didn't receive in the past. Loneliness often stems from a sense of disconnection, not just from others, but from life itself. When you're feeling lonely, try connecting with something larger than your self-nature, art, music, spirituality, or acts of service. These connections can provide a sense of belonging and meaning that transcends the need for human companionship. Gratitude practice can also be a powerful antidote to loneliness. When you're feeling isolated and disconnected, consciously focus on what you're grateful for, not as a way of bypassing your feelings, but as a way of reconnecting with the richness and beauty that already exists in your life. Loneliness often involves a kind of tunnel vision where we can only see what's missing. Gratitude helps restore a broader perspective. It's important to acknowledge that some degree of loneliness is a normal part of the human experience. You don't need to eliminate loneliness completely, you just need to develop a healthier relationship with it. When loneliness arises, you can acknowledge it, explore it, and then choose how you want to respond, rather than being automatically driven to escape it. Remember that the goal is not to never want human connection or companionship. Humans are social beings, and meaningful relationships are essential for psychological health and happiness. The goal is to develop such a rich, fulfilling relationship with yourself that you come to relationships from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, offering rather than desperately seeking. Chapter 12. The Gift of Presence. Perhaps the greatest gift that solitude offers is the cultivation of presence, the ability to be fully here, fully now, fully yourself, in each moment. Presence is not a spiritual concept or philosophical ideal. It's a practical skill that enhances every aspect of your life, from your relationships and work performance to your creativity and emotional well-being. In our distracted, multitasking world, true presence has become increasingly rare. Most people spend their days partially present to multiple things, simultaneously checking email while talking on the phone, thinking about dinner while helping their children with homework, worrying about the future while trying to enjoy the present moment. This divided attention creates a sense of chronic dissatisfaction and disconnection from life. Solitude naturally cultivates presence, because when you're alone with no external demands or distractions, all you have is this moment and your experience of it. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, no one else to please or impress. This simplicity is both challenging and liberating. In the beginning, you may find that being fully present feels uncomfortable or even boring. You're accustomed to the stimulation of constant input and activity, so the quiet simplicity of presence can feel like emptiness. But this is just the withdrawal symptoms of a mind addicted to distraction. As you persist in your practice of solitude, you'll begin to discover the richness and depth that exists within each moment when you give it your full attention. Presence is not passive. It's actively engaged awareness. When you're truly present, you're not spacing out or zoning away. You're awake, alert, and responsive to whatever is happening in your immediate experience. You might be present to the sensation of your breath, the feeling of your body in the chair, the sounds in your environment, or the quality of light in the room. The cultivation of presence through solitude has profound effects on your relationships with others. When you've learned to be fully present with yourself, you naturally bring that quality of attention to your interactions with other people. Instead of half listening while planning what you're going to say next, you listen with your whole being. Instead of being physically present but mentally elsewhere, you show up completely. This quality of presence is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another person. In a world where everyone is constantly distracted and divided, the experience of being truly seen and heard is increasingly rare and precious. When you offer someone your full presence, you're giving them something more valuable than advice, solutions, or entertainment. You're giving them the gift of feeling truly met. Presence also enhances your capacity for joy and appreciation. When you're fully present, ordinary experiences become extraordinary. The taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of warm sunlight on your skin, the sound of birds singing, the smile of a loved one, all of these simple pleasures are available to you in every moment, but only if you're present enough to notice them. The practice of presence also includes being present to difficult experiences without immediately trying to fix, avoid, or escape them. When you're feeling sad, anxious, or frustrated, instead of immediately reaching for distraction or solutions, try simply being present with the experience. Notice where you feel it in your body, what thoughts accompany it, how it changes and shifts when you give it your full attention. This doesn't mean wallowing in negative emotions or becoming masochistic about discomfort. It means developing the capacity to be with your experience, all of it, without being overwhelmed or controlled by it. This is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, as it allows you to respond to life's challenges from a place of clarity and strength, rather than reactivity and avoidance. One simple but powerful practice for cultivating presence is what meditation teachers call noting. Throughout your day, especially during your solitude time, practice simply noting what's happening in your present moment experience. Thinking. You might note when you notice your mind wandering. Feeling anxious, when you notice anxiety arising. Hearing sounds, when you become aware of the sounds in your environment. This practice helps develop what psychologists call meta-cognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own mental processes. When you can observe your thoughts and emotions rather than being completely identified with them, you gain a degree of freedom and choice in how you respond to life's circumstances. Another practice for developing presence is what's sometimes called anchoring, repeatedly returning your attention to a present moment anchor, such as your breath, the sensation of your feet on the ground, or the feeling of your hands resting in your lap. Each time you notice your mind has wandered into the past or future, gently bring it back to your chosen anchor. The gift of presence is not something you develop once and then possess forever. It's a quality that must be continually cultivated and refined. Each moment offers a fresh opportunity to be present, And each time you choose presence over distraction, awareness over automaticity, you strengthen this essential human capacity. Conclusion: the journey home to yourself. As we reach the end of our exploration together, it's important to recognize that what we've been discussing is not just a set of practices or techniques. It's a fundamental shift in how you relate to yourself and your life. The journey into solitude is ultimately a journey home to yourself, a return to the essential nature that has been waiting patiently beneath all the noise, distraction, and busyness of modern life. This journey is not always easy, but it is always worthwhile. In a world that constantly demands your attention, choosing to give that attention to yourself is a radical act of self-love. In a culture that measures worth by external achievements and social connections, finding fulfillment in your own company is a quiet revolution. In a society that fears stillness and silence, embracing solitude is an act of courage. The practices we've explored, morning rituals, meditation, breath awareness, presence cultivation, and the simple act of spending time alone here, not ends in themselves, but means to a deeper end. The discovery of who you truly are, when you're not performing for others, reacting to external demands, or trying to be someone other than yourself. This authentic self that you discover in solitude is not something you need to create or achieve, it's something you need to uncover. It's been there all along, waiting patiently for you to quiet down enough to notice it. It's the part of you that remains peaceful in the midst of chaos, creative in the face of challenges, and wise despite uncertainty. When you develop a strong relationship with this authentic self through regular periods of solitude, everything else in your life begins to align more naturally. Your relationships become more genuine because you're no longer seeking validation or trying to be someone you're not. Your work becomes more fulfilling because you're more connected to your true interests and values. Your daily life becomes more peaceful because you carry an inner stillness with you wherever you go. The benefits of solitude extend far beyond personal well-being. When you know yourself deeply and are comfortable in your own company, you become a gift to the world. You offer others the rare experience of being with someone who is genuinely present, authentic, and at peace with themselves. You become a source of calm in a chaotic world, a reminder that it's possible to live with grace and wisdom even in challenging times. Remember that developing a practice of solitude is not about becoming a hermit or withdrawing from the world. Rather, it's about creating a strong foundation of self-knowledge and inner peace from which you can engage more fully with life. When you're not constantly seeking external validation or escaping from yourself, you have more energy and attention available for meaningful work, loving relationships, and creative expression. The path of solitude is also not about perfection. You don't need to meditate for hours each day or retreat to a monastery to benefit from these practices. Even small, consistent investments in your relationship with yourself will yield significant returns. 10 minutes of morning silence, a brief walk without your phone, or a few conscious breaths throughout your day can begin to transform your experience of life. As you begin or deepen your practice of solitude, be patient with yourself. The skills we've discussed, presence, focused attention, emotional regulation, creative thinking, develop gradually over time. Some days your practice will feel natural and effortless. Other days it will feel forced or uncomfortable. This is completely normal and part of the process. The key is consistency rather than perfection, intention rather than technique, and self-compassion rather than self-judgment. You're not trying to become someone else. You're trying to become more fully yourself. You're not fixing what's broken. You're uncovering what's always been whole. The world needs people who know themselves deeply, who can remain calm in the midst of turmoil, and who can access their innate wisdom and creativity. It needs people who are comfortable with silence, at peace with solitude, and skilled in the art of being present. By developing these qualities within yourself, you're not only transforming your own life, you're contributing to the healing and awakening of our collective consciousness. The sacred space within you is always available, always accessible, always waiting for your return. It requires no special credentials, no perfect conditions, no external permission. It only requires your willingness to turn your attention inward, to spend time with yourself, and to discover the profound peace and wisdom that is your birthright as a human being. The journey into solitude is the journey home to yourself. It's time to begin.